I'm Leah Tarachansky with the Real News in Rabin Square in Tel Aviv. I'm here with Noam Shezaf, a journalist with the 972 magazine, who has been covering the campaign for the Israeli elections taking place in January. Noam, something very interesting happened this week, which is one of the only Palestinian woman in the Israeli parliament was disqualified from running for the next elections. Can you describe the process of how this happened?
What happened was that Hanin Zouabi, a member of the Palestinian party Balad, was disqualified by the Central Election Committee. Now, it's important to understand that the Central Election Committee is a political body comprised of Knesset members according to a proportional representation in the current Knesset. That means that the right-wing coalition, which now governs Israel, also governs the Central Election Committee. Usually, they vote to ban certain Palestinians from participating in the elections, and this decision is reversed later by the Supreme Court. Now, but Zouabi herself was targeted by the right for her participation in the first flotilla in 2010. She was on board the Mavi Marmara. Although she didn't confront IDF soldiers, she was signaled out as an anti-Israeli, a traitor, a supporter of Hamas, you name it. There were no criminal charges against her. She wasn't found guilty in anything, but she was signaled out by the right. And now the right are trying to expel her from the Knesset.
Now, this move is not the first move against her. There was a move to strip her of her parliamentary rights and her diplomatic rights. Can you talk about this campaign since 2010 that thanks to which she's actually propelled from relative anonymity to being a sort of a household name in Israel?
Yes, Zouabi, who was elected in sort of affirmative action for women inside Balad, is now actually one of the most popular Palestinian members of Knesset in the Palestinian society because of the fact that she became the favorite target of the right. She was at a certain point even attacked by Knesset members inside the Knesset, to the extent that the House Speaker, Reuven Rivlin, needed to assign bodyguards for her so she won't be attacked inside the Knesset, not outside of it in the street. The interesting bit is that all of this is done in a very political environment and nothing to do with actual charges against her. Not the army, nor the internal security, nor the police could have found a single evidence against Zouabi. She was well within her right to board the Mavi Marmara, and she did not confront IDF soldiers. But she's perceived as a person who came out publicly against the state, and she became this target to the right. I met Zouabi last Thursday, and she told me that she was actually treated better by IDF soldiers on the Mavi Marmara than by Knesset members inside the parliament.
And just for context, the Mavi Marmara is one of the 6 ships that were sailing towards the Gaza Strip in 2010 as part of the 9th attempt to break the blockade, the naval blockade on the Gaza Strip.
בעד פסילתה של זועבי הצביעו בין היתר נציגי הליכוד, ישראל ביתנו, ש"ס וקדימה, זאת כאשר המתנגדים היו סיעות העבודה, מרצ, חד"ש ומפלגות ערביות.
This committee in particular tried to ban Palestinian members. It ended up only banning Zouabi, which is actually an improvement because in the last Knesset they banned 2 Palestinian parties and not just one Knesset members. They also banned a right-wing campaign by a fringe settlers party called Otzma Israel, which was labeled as racist by the committee and banned, but they didn't ban the Orthodox Party, for example, for not allowing women to participate on their list or to take part in the parties. So their positions are sort of within the Israeli consensus and very much serving the needs of the political powers.
Now, Hanin Zouabi's party, the Balad party, has boycotted this process and instead sent their lawyers to represent them in the committee.
אין אפשרות להגן על חברת הכנסת זועבי באווירה זו. אין אפשרות.
עוצמות ההתלהמות, ההתפרצות והאלימות המילולית של חברי הכנסת לא פעם הוציאו את יושב ראש הוועדה השופט אליקים רובינשטיין מדעתו.
Can you talk about the history of Arab parties boycotting the Israeli election?
Right now, there is a split in the Palestinian public over the question of participating in the elections. When some of the major forces historically are continuing a tradition of participation, these are the existing parties like Balad, Hadash, which is actually a Jewish Palestinian party, and Ra'am-Tal, which is a religious party, a religious Palestinian party. But there are some movements who choose not to participate. Balad, the party of Hanin Zouabi, has announced that if Hanin Zouabi is not allowed to participate in the election, they will join the boycott, making for the first time the boycott not just a move by a Muslim party, but also by liberal, secular Palestinians and even academic. This will represent a new deterioration in the political relations between Israel and the Arab minority.
אנחנו לא מוכנים להיות שק החבטות של ח"כים מטורפים מהימין. אנחנו לא מוכנים להצטדק על כך שאנחנו דורשים שוויון מלא במדינת כל אזרחיה. אנחנו לא מוכנים לשבת על ספסל הנאשמים בגלל היותנו פטריוטים פלסטינים.
Now, considering that this decision goes automatically to the Supreme Court, and as you wrote in your article, there's a very good chance that the Supreme Court will not uphold this decision because you need concrete evidence against a person to actually disqualify them. You suggest that this decision was made considering the Supreme Court will overturn it. Can you talk about this logic?
Well, it's a bit complicated, but to sum it up, everyone are playing a political game here. The Knesset members don't actually want the Arab population to boycott the elections. It will reflect very bad on Israeli democracy and on Israel's image. Instead, they're banning Hanin Zouabi from participation in a move that wins them support with their constituency on the right, but at the same time anticipating that the Supreme Court will eventually allow Zouabi to run. Because you need good evidence in order to ban someone from participating, and there's no evidence against Zouabi. But there's also a deeper level of this political behavior. This could be seen as part of an attempt to delegitimize the Palestinian representative and to isolate them. You need to remember that Palestinian members of Knesset were never made part of an Israeli government, ever in the history of the state. They're not sitting on the most important committee, and actually they're not part of the decision-making process. The Jewish consensus is taking all the decision, not the Palestinian members. By signaling them out as traitors, by questioning their right to be elected to the Knesset and even to vote, Knesset members from the right are sending a very strong message regarding the position of Palestinian citizens as second-rate citizens, as people who their loyalty and even political status is in constant question.